NCAA basketball totals for Saturday, November 19th. We have 5 games on the card today. Of course, it's college football Saturday, but we got a lot of NCAA basketball out there. Not a lot of great games, a few good ones, but a whole slate of games. We're going to cover 5 of them. Let's just go ahead and let's dive right into it. It's been pretty good so far this season in NCAA college basketball. Of course, we have our NBA segment out there, and don't forget to check out SBR. Good sign-up bonuses at several sports books. Check out the review list as well, so it's all there for you at SBR. And also check those numbers, see where those lines are moving as we go ahead and break these down. And be sure to go ahead and get to SBR and check out the website. All right, here we go. First game we're going to look at is one of the earlier games. We got Penn State versus Duke. I'm going to go ahead and go over the total of 158. Now, Duke, we know they go fast. They're still a little bit thin without their 3-star freshman, but you're talking about a team right now that's averaging 88.3 points per game. Tough loss versus Kansas the other night, and they go up tempo. That's what Coach K does. They go up tempo, they get out in transition, they shoot the three. They do everything you want out of an offensive team. Now, Penn State, can they keep up? That's the thing, because we're big total here, 158. I think they can. Pat Chambers, pretty good coach for Penn State. He said they've got some decent returners. They weren't really great in scoring defense. I think last year or even up till now. I mean, right now they're allowing 79 points per game versus lesser competition. But Pat Chambers has said they're athletic and that they want to go fast. He has been quoted as saying that. So I think they're going to do that tonight. Right now, Penn State, they're shooting 50% from the floor. Of course, Duke, they're shooting 49% from the floor. And the tempo, I think, is going to be there with right now Penn State's getting up almost 64 attempts per game. That's pretty fast. And Duke's getting up almost 60. And they're both allowing about that too. So I think we're going to see something that gets up and down. Both teams are going to score. I like over the total between Duke and Penn State over that 158. Okay, next up we got St. Mary's versus Dayton. Probably the best game of the day. Randy Bennett really has done a great job with that St. Mary's program. Archie Miller, excellent basketball coach. I'm going to go under the total of 141.5. This one I looked at for a while because St. Mary's was one of the most efficient offensive teams last year in the country. They were number 1 for a long time, but they play out of the WCC. This year they've been picked 1 and 2 with Gonzaga, of course. It's been that way the last few years. Dayton's going to be right there in the mix of the A10. Very, very tough. A lot of guys back. They were number 1 in points allowed per possession last year in the A10. And their scoring defense was, one of the best in the A10. And they got a lot of guys back. This is a tough team. Now, we look at their points per game so far this year versus lesser competition. You got St. Mary's 95.5 points per game, and Dayton's get up 86.5. Okay, that's a lot of points. But defensively, they're both doing a pretty good job. Dayton, they've allowed 70, which is too much for them. But again, this is just early. We're getting snapshots right now of what they're capable of. St. Mary's, they have allowed 67.5. Again, just a couple games, not a lot to go on. But then we get down to their shooting percentages. St. Mary's right now, they're shooting 58.5% from the field. That's really awesome. But they got to travel to Dayton and play against that pack line defense. That's not going to be easy. That kind of, I've mentioned this before, it's kind of a pullback man-to-man type zone. Very, very difficult to score against. Archie Miller does a great job, similar to his brother at Arizona. You got Dayton right now. They are, on their shooting percentage, 54.5%. So you got two teams shooting, almost 60%, it seems. 58% St. Mary's. You got almost 55% for Dayton. But then we look at them defensively. So St. Mary's right now, this is not good. They're allowing 45.6% from the field, but they're allowing just 51.5 attempts. That ranks as one of the better ones in the country in controlling pace. I think they're going to be focused on that tonight, having to go and play at Dayton. Dayton, they've been excellent. They're allowing opponents just 39% shooting from the field. Again, very tough defensive team. So at the end of the day, that 141.5, that's a lot of points in college basketball. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go under the total because St. Mary's is traveling. If this was on a neutral floor, I might think about it differently, but I think Dayton's going to hold them down. I think St. Mary's is going to have to try and grind it out if they're going to pull off what would be a very, very tough road win. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, but it's going to be a great game either way, and it probably will go down to the wire, but Dayton should pull it out. At the end, I like under the total of 141.5. Sorry, I was getting off on some tangents there trying to break down the game even more. All right, let's get to the next one. We got Rhode Island versus Cincinnati. I'm going to go under the 134.5. That's a low total, but we got two very good defensive coaches here in Dan Hurley for Rhode Island and Mick Cronin for Cincinnati. Now, last year, Cincinnati, they were number 1 in scoring defense and number 2 in points allowed per possession in the American Conference. Pretty good league. Rhode Island, they were number one in scoring defense in the A10, and they were third in points allowed per possession. So, and they got guys back. So both these teams are picked pretty high in their league so far this year. Rhode Island's loaded. That's a good team right there. They're scoring off the charts right now. Rhode Island 90 points per game, Cincinnati 79 points per game. But let's get to their defense. There's a reason why. I mean, look at those scores right there. That's 169 point average. There's a reason why it's 134 and a half, because Cincinnati is allowing 53 points per game and Rhode Island is 66. Rhode Island is a very good defense. Cincinnati is allowing opponents to shoot 39%, and Rhode Island is allowing opponents to shoot 38%. I think that's what we're going to see. We're just going to see a defensive battle. I have a lot more statistics here, but for time, well, let's just talk about their attempts real quick. Cincinnati, they're allowing opponents to get up just 52.5 attempts per game. And Rhode Island, they're allowing opponents to get up 57. That's kind of a lot, but I just see this more to be a grind out sort of game. Two tough defensive teams are going to go at it, and I think we're going to see a low scoring affair with Rhode Island and Cincinnati. All right, next one up. Got all my stats here. That's why I'm turning these pages. We got Louisiana Tech and Nebraska. 150 and a half set by odds makers. I'm going to go over the 150 and a half. Now, Eric Konkol, he was an assistant at Miami. He takes over for Louisiana Tech, but they're still going really fast. They're averaging, they've done that every year. For adjusted tempo, they're always in the top part of the country. They've been that way the last several years. That has not changed. You know, you're talking about a team right now, they're getting up 60 attempts per game. That's pretty good, but they're averaging 81.5 and they're allowing 70.5. Now they're going to Nebraska, a team that's got some decent returners. You know, they were seventh in scoring in the Big Ten. That's not great. Tim Miles does a pretty good job. A big thing for them, of course, was Andrew White left, surprisingly so. But still, right now, you know, they're averaging 83 points per game. And we look at their shooting percentages. That's what really kind of gets me on this. You got Louisiana Tech. They're shooting 58% from the field. That's going to be kind of tough at Nebraska, but Nebraska is allowing opponents to shoot 50%. So I think Louisiana Tech's going to be able to score. Nebraska, they're going to be able to score at home. Right now, they're shooting 47.7% from the field. So I look for this to be kind of an up-tempo game. You know, Nebraska, pretty good at controlling tempo, but Louisiana Tech, I think, is going to be able to get out and run against them. I think Nebraska is going to go ahead and go with them. Pretty high total at 150 and a half, but I'm going to go over the total with Louisiana Tech and Nebraska. Last one on the day, we got Northern Illinois and Cal State Northridge. I looked at this one for a while, and at the end of the day, Northridge is so fast. Odds makers have it at 156 and a half, but Northridge, man, they get up and down the court. They got two good guards back in Kendall Smith and Aaron Parks. You know, they return five guys that average at least 9.5 points. They just get up and down, and I think Northern Illinois, they're more of a grind-out team. But Mark Montgomery, you know, he's done a good job there. They got three returners who scored in double digits last year. I just see this to be a really high scoring affair. That's why it's at 156 and a half. Right now, you got Northern Illinois. They're averaging 71.5 points per game. They're shooting about 47% from the field. Northridge, they're getting up. Excuse me. They're scoring 78 points per game. They're shooting just 45% from the field, but they had a really tough time versus Stanford in their last game, and that was on the road. Right now, Cal State Northridge, they're allowing 99 points per game. Northern Illinois, 63.5. That's not that much, but it's at Northridge. So I really think we're going to get up and down tonight. Northridge, they're allowing opponents to get up 68.5 attempts per game. And Northern Illinois, although they're pretty good at controlling tempo, they're allowing opponents to get up about 65 attempts per game. So it's what they have going allowed defensively that has me liking the over on this one, because I think they're both going to be able to score. So at the end of the day here, we got Northern Illinois, Cal State Northridge. I'm going to go over that 156 and a half. A lot more statistics again. You know, a big thing for Northridge this year is they didn't shoot the three very well last year, and they're improving a little bit on that. They are shooting 32% from distance so far this season. That's better than last year where they were under 30%. So I think they're going to be able to score tonight. It's going to be some interesting matchups and a little bit of conflicting styles, but I think Northern Illinois will more than likely go ahead and run with Northridge, with Northridge controlling the tempo. All right, quick recap. A lot of information there. I have a lot more too, but for time's sake, let's just go ahead and let's break these ones down one more time. We got Penn State Duke over the 158, and what I think is going to be an absolute track meet. Penn State wants to go fast. St. Mary's and Dayton under the 141 and a half. Two good coaches, two good defensive coaches, and I think that The game being at Dayton, that's the key to that one. Cincinnati, Rhode Island, under the 134.5. Both teams have scored a lot this year, but both teams play tremendous defense. That's going to be the key to the under in that one. Louisiana Tech, Nebraska, over 150.5. Louisiana Tech wants to run. I think Nebraska's going to be happy to go and run at home. And we got Northern Illinois, Cal State Northridge, over the 156.5, and what I think also is going to be a track meet. Those are our NCAA college football picks. Be sure to check out SBR. All sorts of information there. As far as all the odds and the numbers and the sports books and the reviews. So be sure to check out the website, and I wish you luck on your picks today.